Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Larry.
and we're doing Stuff and Things. And so today we're going to be talking about the advantages and disadvantages of having a broad perspective of what you think you should be doing versus a narrow, this is what I want to be doing perspective in life, and the advantages and disadvantages of each.
Yeah, we're going to kick around the motivational factors of it and also the relational factors of it.
Right. Definitely.
Cool. So go ahead and give a more detailed explanation of the topic.
Yeah.
That was a good introduction. But
So, Phil, who's not with us today, him and I were talking about.
let's have a moment of silence for Phil. Okay.
We were talking about.
He's working.
He is working. That poor man. How Jeff Rogan talks about how you're designed for something, and once you find that what that is, you should just pursue it wholeheartedly. Have your entire focus on that, which is a very small or narrow target to go after. And in my experience, I don't necessarily think that is 100% accurate, because you miss people, and so it's a very selfish way of looking at things. The example I gave to Phil yesterday, if you're in the corporate world, if you want to get to the management or the CEO position, there's certain steps that you want to take, and you just have to keep doing those steps. So climb the rung after rung after rung to climb that ladder, and in that process, you're missing the people that are in your peripherals because you're just so focused on yourself and making yourself successful. And for me, I don't want to do that. I want to be successful, but I don't want to miss people along the way because I miss the relational side of things in that. So that's the thing at large. And so how we go around that, or what the advantages of being very specific or not being very specific, how that looks in today's society.
Well, let's kick around some particulars. I want to challenge is probably the wrong word, but I want to bring up something that you said that I think might deserve a little bit of attention. And you said that narrow focus is selfish. As I'm sitting here listening and thinking about it, I would say a better word would be self-centered.
Okay.
Because selfish has a tendency to, you could have a really selfish person that sees everybody around them but only wants to use them for themselves.
Right.
That would be selfish. But self-centered makes your vision and all your orbital stuff right around you. So, and I don't necessarily think self-centered carries with it the same pejorative or evil kind of sound, malicious sound as selfish does. So, would you concur that?
Yeah, I would concur.
Okay.
More self-centered than selfish.
So a self-centered perspective has some positives to it. For instance, you're probably going to be self-aware, and if you're self-aware, you may be more inclined to know what you're good at and what actually fires your passions, and
Right.
so on and so forth. A self-centered person, this doesn't always work out in practice, but should be more aware of their needs, their need to rest, their need to be loved. Like there's that adage about love your neighbor as yourself. You can't really do that very well if you're not aware of yourself. So I don't think that self-awareness or self-centeredness even is necessarily all bad, but the question is it the best way to become all you can be?
Right.
And so I put the question out there as we're examining this side of the equation, the more focused, narrow, or self-centered way. Can you be are you designed to be all you can be by yourself?
No. I don't think it's possible.
I don't either. I think we're designed as, if Phil were here, he'd use some kind of secular term like herd animals or flock or something. And so we want to let him speak even though he's having to work. I think we're designed for family and community. I think the big identity factors in our lives, or the titles, are things like son, brother, sister, father, mother, friend.
Right.
And all of those are relational. None of those can be executed the way they're designed. Even regardless of what your philosophic thing behind that is, fathers need sons and daughters, to be fathers, and friends need other people to be friends. So I would say that an over focus on that tiny goal, that really focused, tightly focused goal, runs the risk of creating a disconnect between the true aspects of our identity that are with community.
Right. Yeah, I think that you need to have that awareness, but in that awareness, you can't let it be all encompassing. So I can't just be all self aware. I have to be aware of the other person that's in the room.
Yeah, I agree. Now, so is it possible to be totally not self-aware, or to have a goal in life or a motivating factor in life that isn't about you? Some.
I don't think it's entirely possible to separate the two, but I definitely think there's extremes where you almost separate the two. I think in our society we'd call them like free-spirited people more than anything, but they're just kind of going with the flow of whatever. And for me that's very destructive to a society because it doesn't drive any growth, because they are just free-floating. And I'm not saying that it's wrong for them to be that, but I think that's the closest you get from being self-aware. They might say, oh, I know exactly who I am, man. I'm just living life. But it's like, that doesn't mean anything. To me, at least. I don't see it, but...
When we think about the concept of anarchy, where everybody does what they want to do, we have a tendency to think, I do anyway, I don't know if everybody does. It'd be a good question for people watching. Yeah, matter of fact, this is a question. When you think of anarchy, do you think of aggressive things, or do you think of happy? Is there such a thing as happy anarchy?
Generally, I think people think aggressive.
I do too.
Cities on fire, cars rolled over, all that.
Yeah. So there may be a component of happy anarchy, but we don't even think of it as a way of living.
Right.
So there's one of the advantages of over-focusing on that one is it turns a little bit self-centered, and it becomes a tool that can emotionally and relationally separate us from the people around us. What are some other advantages or disadvantages?
Other advantages are, I think, that it does bring out the best of what the niche that you are in can be. So if you're very self-centered in, I don't know, neurology or whatever, you're going to be very good at understanding the brain and what's going on there. So you have to have that self-centeredness to get to that level. But again, it goes back to the cost. What does that actually cost? You lose your connection with people. So that's why that balance, I think, needs to be more important in society in general. And I think, at least looking around at my group of people that I interact with, most of them would be more self-centered than they would think that they even are. So it's, I'm going to go to work to make money, and then I'm going to go home, and they're just disconnected from society, really. And then they sit at home and they complain about this, that, or the other, instead of going and making those relationships. So that'd be the disadvantage in that part. So that neuro person, they know everything about it, but then they don't know their neighbors at all. It's like, what's the benefit there in terms of society?
So what about disadvantages of the other thing, of the broader focus?
The disadvantages of broader focus would be that we don't drive as fast or as good as we could. We don't have the best of whatever because we're too unfocused, so to speak. We're too concerned with people instead of with our target, so to
I
speak.
could see one of the disadvantages being vulnerable to distractions.
Yeah.
And of course, you have to make a decision. What is a distraction and what is an opportunity, to
Exactly.
learn something new or relate to somebody new. So.
Yeah. So another example that I think I spoke of yesterday with Phil, I don't want to be so focused on my work, even though I know my work is driving things that are important, that if someone has a phone call, like calls me and is like, hey, I need help with this, like, I want to be able to stop what I'm doing and be like, no, this is more important because of the relationship there, rather than, no, I want to focus on this work because that's what I am designed to do, is this work. So
when we were kicking around topics that we might talk about today, and we're going to break these down into some shorter segments, so we may still have time to do that. You had mentioned the concept of dualism. One of the things that dualism produces, if we think that that's how reality really is it is constantly presenting us with either or choices as if they were the only choice. You got a choice in one camp, a choice in another. So totally self-focused or totally. I think in reality, almost nobody is totally self-focused.
I don't think everyone is 100% either way,
Right.
but
And I don't even think it would be healthy if they were. So then let's talk about what is a both. Okay, let me ask a different way. It seems to me that if you have a really tight focus centered around the thing that you're gifted at and good at or trained for or whatever, that the word that emerges out of that is the potential for being productive. If you have a broader focus the way we're talking that still includes the relationships that allow you to be father, son, mother, daughter, friend.
right.
The idea of healthiness or balance or something. I don't really like the word balance because it's kind of an artificial mechanical thing, but healthy sounds good. Like you have healthy relationships, you have that. What does the blend look like, and what are the things that stand in the way of that blend and things that allow us to properly engage a blend like that?
I think key things that come out of that blend would be you'd see less negative things in general. Meaning, because you're not so focused on this is my job or whatever, which I think that's where our society is mostly. We're more focused on our target rather than the broader thing.
Mm-hmm.
You'd see less people that complain about everything that's going on at work or complain about everything that's going on in the politics
Mm-hmm.
right now, or because you're more focused on the relationship with the person, so you tend to try to figure things out and make a positive out of the negative rather than just, man, this sucks, this is a negative thing.
Yeah. If you don't have a relationship with somebody, you have a tendency you have to evaluate them on the basis of what you think already, and then you kind of have a tendency to put them in a group or a class. I do find that when I actually have a relationship with somebody and give myself to having that relationship, they're a lot more diverse than it first appears.
Right.
When I just put them in a group, And if the two groups are me and the thing I'm good at and focused on and everything else, then maybe everything else does look like a distraction,
Right.
or feel like a distraction.
Yeah.
And then you kind of see that when people succeed at a really massive level, and then their marriages fall apart or their families fall apart, or
Right.
they have addiction problems where they're medicating some missing thing in their life.
Totally.
Yeah.
But even when you don't have that successful person, you still see that brokenness anyway, because it's easier to just complain about things rather than
Engage.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So, okay, so this started in part with a conversation with you and Phil,
Mm-hmm.
and Rogan being brought up in it. The advantages are productivity if you focus. Most people
Right.
get more done with what they're good at than being a jack of all trades. How do you give the proper place to that?
So to me, I think Jeff Rogan is right that you should pursue what your gift is. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Finding that thing that you're actually passionate about and pursuing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's wrong is when you take it to the extreme, though. So there's nothing wrong with finding it and being self-aware and being self-centered enough to know, hey, this is what I'm actually good at. I'm going to do it now. Versus, I'm just going to float around because that's not helping anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that aspect of it is very healthy. Knowing your target, at least. But focusing solely on your target, I don't think is the healthy part of it, because then you can't have those relationships that we discussed.
So would you say that the relationships, they can be a marker of when you're approaching that extreme? Or let me put it another way. So what, if we just ask the question without having the answer kind of already formulated, what are the things you can keep an eye out for that would tell you that you're going from a good, healthy, productive focus on yourself, your skill set, and so on, to you're over-focused on it?
I think good indicators are just how you interact with the relationships you already have. If you notice, I think it's easier to notice it in someone else than in yourself. So if I notice that you were just talking about different things than you normally would, or you're focused on things that you can't control anyway, so why are you focusing on them? That'd be a good indicator that you're too self inward. I'll call it self inwardness.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe detached, inaccessible
Right.
from people who you've had relationship with, because it's really interesting. Oh, this is an interesting point that just popped in. Nobody ever starts focused like that.
Exactly. And it's hard to even see it in yourself. Like, I wouldn't know unless someone told me, unless I took the time to evaluate my own life. Then I would see it, but most people aren't going to do that. So it really does, I think, take someone else's perspective to just nudge you in the right direction again. Hey, let's not focus so much on that, and let's become relational again.
So that probably requires a little bit more vulnerability than is naturally produced by a really tight focus on the goal.
Right.
Because if you are really focused on the goal, and if production is the primary measuring stick, vulnerability could be seen as an enemy, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think that's true. Huh. Interesting.
So those are my thoughts on, should I go for the target or should I keep it broader?
Yes, but.
But. Yes, but.
Yes, but. Well, cool.
Yeah. So, if you guys have questions, comments, concerns, let us know on our YouTube page. And we're going to try to get it on a podcast. I've been unsuccessful thus far, so we'll see what happens this week, though.
It's a work in progress,
It's a work
just like we are.
Yes.
We're focused on our goal, but we still have other relationships that we're taking care of.
So true.
So we're listening to our own advice.
Yeah. Cool.
Excellent.